All right, guys, thank you so much for joining. My name is Evan BENTZ, or Evan's Ensemble Effect. Thank you again, Dro TV, for having me today. This was a fantastic interview. Hope you all stick around. Have a good one.
Welcome to My First Time, the show about your first time getting high on marijuana. I'm your host, Mike Freeman with Dro TV. Today, I'd like to welcome our guest, Evan BENTZ. What's going on, my friend?
How you doing, Mike? Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Um, my name is Evan BENTZ. I'm a personal trainer. I'm a certified nurse aide, recent Florida State uh, dietetics nutrition graduate, and current University of Maryland School of Pharmacy Masters of Cannabis Science and Therapeutics student. And new to the cannabis community. So very happy to be here. And again, I appreciate you having me on, Mike.
You're welcome. Uh, Definitely want to delve more into all of that stuff that you've got going on for 23 young years of age. But before we
Yes.
do, you can find more of Evan on Instagram at Evan's Ensemble Effect, as well as on LinkedIn. All the links will be down below. So, Evan, I know you've got a couple of stories. We're going to get into it right now. The show's my first time, so please let us know about your multiple first times getting high.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I want to talk about two times that I first got high. The first time I got high, and then pretty much right after that when I had my first introduction to Florida's medical marijuana program. So, my first real time getting high, this was in March of 2020, so about 2.5, 3 years ago. Um, I was given a little chocolate bar from a friend. Prior to this, uh, I had been utilizing traditional pharma for anxiety, depression, PTSD, and nothing seemed to have helped for the past 2.5, 3 years prior to that. And finally, my doctor said, "You know what? Just give cannabis a try." So um, once I finally got past that stigma, which is what I kind of grew up with, um, I accepted the chocolate bar. I was a sophomore in college at the time. I was with my ex-girlfriend at the time, and I remember sitting there for about 2 hours just waiting for this little piece of chocolate to hit. I don't know how many milligrams was in it, unfortunately, but um, I remember my roommate walked in at the time with his girlfriend, at the time, because I mean this was the first like illegal thing I was doing. I was like, "Oh, you don't see me cutting this right now. Don't worry about it." He's like, "Oh, don't worry about it." So we're just sitting there. About 2 hours later, I finally start to feel my eyes close a little bit. I start to feel my head tighten a little bit, and I was like, "Okay, something's happening." And then I would say about 5, 10 minutes later, I had my first experience where I said, "Oh, this is what it feels like to relax. This is what it feels like to be calm." So that night, the only other real remembrance is when I closed my eyes, I saw spaceships and I was a little goofy, and that typical happy goofy, and was super enjoyable, and really truly was the first time I felt like I could relax. So that was my first real time getting high. I would say maybe a few weeks after that, I decided to schedule an appointment to get my card. Um, Unfortunately, I was in Tallahassee at the time, got my card and had my first experience with a quack doctor where they had me go pay the money. Uh, I was coming home from FSU that day. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention I just west of West Palm, a town called Wellington. Um, I was on my way home and I saw my approval email. Super excited, thought I'd be able to go to the dispensary. So went into local Grow Healthy, and they said you don't actually have any recommendations, you're just approved. So I called the doctor and found out that they wanted me to come back in, knowing then that that's just more money for them, even though and that shouldn't have happened. And I didn't know anything otherwise either. Sorry about my dogs. Um, so that same day, I actually managed to get an appointment at another clinic in Boynton Beach. Um, the guy who's no longer there anymore, Dr. Wolf, was able to see me. My father actually came with me at the time. My mother was not. growing up, again, my parents weren't super into weed. They didn't say absolutely never, but they were like, it's probably not the best thing you should do. Don't do it. Um, my mom was very skeptical, sent my dad with me to get my card. Um, Took about 10, 15 minutes. He didn't really explain anything to me and said, all right, here's your card. Now you're good. All right. So we go to Move, or local Move. That's where they recommended that we go. And the first time walking into the dispensary, being able to, actually choose some items, it was awesome. Of course, from prior knowing how uh, obscure the illicit market can be when transactions are made. Um, but we walked in, and I'll always remember my father looked at the menu and said, "Pootie Tang. What the hell strains are these?" And from there I always knew if I ever became a cultivator, I'm crossing Pootie Tang, Sour Jack, Stanky Cooter, and nobody take that. Anyways, so that kind of got the ball rolling a little bit. I From there I started getting into cannabis. I mean, myself, I remember that same day hit the lemon margie vape pen. Also felt that same relaxation, and it's been cannabis since then. Yeah,
Excellent.
so those are my two times getting
So
high.
was your dad with you the first time you consumed the pen?
So that pen, yes. Oh, that's right. So right after then, I remember we went to go meet my dad and sister at a restaurant. Can't remember where it was, but I remember sitting there trying to hide the goofy smile. And like, they don't know I'm relaxing right now. um, Unfortunately, the few times that I have tried to introduce my family to, or immediate family, father, mother, the sister's 2 years older, who tried once, um, didn't end too well. Actually, I do know that I did give them a little bit higher of a dose than I should have for their first time, which also absolutely made me want to learn a lot more about how to safely consume. Because I accidentally sent my dad to the hospital, which he was fine. He didn't feel too great, but yes,
Okay. So what, he ate too many edibles or too strong an edible?
too strong of an edible. Yep, I made this delicious banana bread, and I would say he had about 70 milligrams of THC for a first go. Which, as we know, if you get a 500 milligram Nerds rope and someone has that their first time, they're probably getting 30 milligrams, and still a little high for their first time. But when I knew it was 70 milligrams of pure THC distillate that now was lab tested and had that reliability to it, I saw, wow, that is a lot, and it was not good.
So he was okay. Was he just like nauseous or
He, yeah, he has he had a heart condition just recently. Had surgery to fix. He was born with a hole in his heart, basically, and because of that, I actually wasn't. I was on my way home from picking up food with my sister that day when we stopped outside, or as we came around the neighborhood and saw the ambulance kind of outside of our house, and it's like, oh no. Uh, but he thought that something was more wrong than maybe was his really first experience, or at least since high school, smoking whatever once.
right? We hear about this a lot.
That was insane.
People, excuse me. I have a high tolerance. Last week we were at an expo. I think I did over 300 milligrams, and was definitely feeling really good. But the first time my girl and I went to consume edibles, I had already consumed edibles, but the first time she went to consume it, her friend baked. She was a baker. After
Yep.
hours, she
Uh-huh.
would, after hours, she'd make up, her little
Mm-hmm.
edibles. And it was 100 milligram lemon cake split into fours. And her friend said, don't take more than one square, one
Mm-hmm.
corner. And I said, listen, if you want a true test, I'm going to take half of this. You take a quarter.
Mm-hmm.
My girl barely felt anything. She was like on the couch. She felt a little something. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
feel I didn't feel anything.
Okay.
Um, and her friend was like blown away. And then the next time I said, maybe you need something a little stronger. So I had a buddy that had been making stuff out in Cali forever and a day. And we split one of those. We were both couch locked. She
Yeah.
actually had to crawl to the toilet and throw up, which wasn't not a great end to that story,
No.
but um
Oh,
it was just too strong for her. But she's a nurse. She was an ER nurse for 12 years. Now she does more of like spa treatment, IV infusion, stuff like that.
oh, cool.
And
Okay.
she's, she always looked at it like, oh, the weed stuff, but she gets migraines, she has pain. So now she's learning, she's coming to the expos
Utilizing.
with me, and
That's
she's
awesome.
learning and educating because, um, it's unfortunate when situations happen like what did with your dad, but I would imagine now your dad and your mom, are they more interested in educating themselves?
Absolutely. Neither of them. So I have been able since to give them CBD a few times, and that is the tip of the iceberg. That we're waiting to dive deeper. They are absolutely a lot more supportive. So me going to get my master's in cannabis science, that put a lot of validity to really anything I say up into this point. The only sort of formal, and by no means am I, of course, a cannabis expert, and I'm only very early in my program. My last 2 semesters of um, my dietetics nutrition degree, we had medical nutrition therapy where we basically went through all of our different systems and if there was a diagnosis for this, how you could treat it with food. Um, and I did a presentation on how cannabis could help IBS. Found out that IBS uh, C, so IBS constipation, then IBS M mixed, are helped by CB2 agonist being CBD, those receptors in the gastrointestinal tract because they modulate GI movement, so it's going to improve motility. So we found out that said, well, why haven't we talked about this? That's so interesting. It could really help. It's a natural medicine. We also know that beta caryophyllene, which is of course a terpene, also is an agonist to the CB2 receptors um, without giving those intoxicating effects, and could also be used perfectly for improving gastric motility and anti-inflammatory benefits. Which, of course, I'm preaching to the choir. We could go on and on, but um, about why cannabis isn't in our current medicine regimen in the U.S. But yeah,
Awesome. So, excuse me. um, so you still have a lot going on. It seems like education is your biggest focus at this point.
yes. So education is definitely my biggest focus. In my past, I would say really only 5 6 months since I left FSU, and I've come down here. I've started to introduce myself a little bit into the both legacy and kind of illicit communities that Florida has here, as well as some of the legal, as in dispensaries, either doctors, whatever they may be. And I found it really really interesting. Of course, coming from a place where again where I thought cannabis was a drug of abuse, right? Knowing that it's not now. It's an interesting dynamic to be in an education space, still in a kind of illicit market. I love it because the illicit market is where, I mean, now the legal market is coming from. It's something I wasn't really introduced to, of course, growing up. And everyone's so friendly because they love cannabis, and cannabis is innately loving.
Sure.
So that's been really great. Um, the people who I've met, it's been again from people who sell weed to other nutrition and cannabis educators. Um, shout out Dr. Hillary Taylor, Dr. Lonnie Wace, and my friend nutritionist Abby Folsom. Some of these people are, I mean, doing the frontline cannabis educating and some nutrition educating. And we've been, sorry if you hear the dogs. What I've really been focusing on in my own uh, personal and professional studies have been trying to improve edible bioavailability and improve and make different cannabis products that could help with that. My kind of lack of faith in the education system, at least here in Florida, knowing that you go to a doctor, they don't really tell you a whole lot. You go and choose whatever. You usually waste some money. Stuff doesn't work for you. You unfortunately go to dispensaries that have really high discounts but don't provide medicine that actually do anything for you. Um, there's all these different levels that you don't know about until you spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars and a lot of time researching it yourself, experiencing it for yourself. And it's really sad because we're patients. We should be we should be helped. I mean, luckily the state of Florida is moving in. The state of Florida has moved towards cannabis friendly usages in some ways. Of course, with a medical cannabis program, it's available. Is it widely available and easily? No, but is it available? Sure. um but it's still not what it could be. I can't say again that I grew up with I mean the crappy weed, but I've also gotten some stuff that I don't think is medicine. And now, of course, looking at certificate of analyses, looking at the actual chemical makeup of these plants, and then saying, oh, this really isn't medicine. This is just pure THC that's going to give me a headache. Um, that's where I want to go. So my name, Evans Ensemble Effect. Want to mention, so a lot a lot of people have heard of the entourage effect, right? More cannabis components, more medicinal, more better, which is absolutely true. There was a term coined by a Harvard professor, Reimer, I believe, in 2016, called the ensemble effect, which basically is set to maximize therapeutic benefit. So instead of getting as many cannabis components as you can and getting a great medicinal outcome, which you can get, of course, um, let's be a little bit more specific. So let's choose some THC, some CBD, some limonene, and some pinene, and that could be a fantastic ADHD slash stimulating medication. Um, and there's a lot less risk of maybe having adverse effects or not having other cannabis components in there that would affect you negatively. So really being or choosing your medicine wisely. Unfortunately, also in the state of Florida, interestingly, they don't, or the Department of Health does not require terpene analyses to be on the certificate of analysis. Luckily, a lot of Florida dispensaries do, which is great. But
Hey, everybody, I want to quickly mention food forest abundance. Food forest abundance is a great way to create your own self sustaining food forest and naturally occurring ecosystem that's commonly found in nature but designed specifically for you. Through multiple layers of trees, shrubs, herbs, vines, rhizomes, mushrooms, and perennial vegetables, you can become your own supply chain without the typical maintenance required of a garden. From small spaces to large areas, both urban and suburban, Food Forest Abundance wants us to get back to our roots in nature by engaging with our food production in a meaningful way. For more information, click on the link in the description below and start your journey today. Okay, let's get back to today's episode.
we, of course, see patients going into dispensaries every day. Give me the highest THC percentage, could be the lowest terpene percentage, and they won't know otherwise. Bud tenders push high THC percentage. Unfortunately, my experience with uh, applying for jobs in the dispensary field here has been how much can you sell instead of what do you know, and how much can you take from these patients, and that's also very sad. Um, so I really, really want to put the power back in the hands of the people. Knowing I'm only at the tip of the iceberg of really knowing what that means, from a generational standpoint. Um, this class that I'm in right now, it's Intro to History, Culture, and Policy in Cannabis. Gonna get an A in it. First A I've gotten in God knows how long. But
Nice.
uh, of of course, it's an evil, intolerant, bigoted history from cannabis and why it is the way it is now. Um, and it's disgusting, and that needs to be changed. So I have had a history of having life changes of things helping myself, or ways of myself helping myself and wanting to do that for others. So talk about that later with my personal training and becoming a nurse aide. But that is exactly where I want to go with cannabis.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think too. There's definitely the dark, racist, bigoted history. I also think why it's you know illegal for everybody is because there is like a spiritual psychoactive uh part of it where you go on a mushroom trip, you're in a different world, right? And you open your mind, you expand your consciousness, you think of things that you wouldn't be taught in a school or that somebody might not uh pass down to you. And cannabis, certainly there's some, well, there is psychoactive.
Intrinsic
Sure. um
looking in, absolutely.
and I think in the world we live in, uh the school system, employment, they want worker bees, they want people who follow authority, they don't want people to really be able to think for themselves, which I think plays a lot into plant medicine and why it is illegal. And even though all the benefits, most, there might not be published peer-reviewed studies on all these things, but I mean, we see it,
But
we
the
know it,
US has a
right?
patent
Right.
to, yeah,
Yeah. Right.
to cannabinoids killing cancer cells. Yeah.
So to me, that's almost even darker and deeper because it's like preventing us from really exploring ourselves and what we're capable of on a human being standpoint. And what
That
what
seems
more
scarier.
what more can we create? How much more can we come up with if we are able to enjoy this plant recreationally? How greater would life be for everybody? You know, um,
And the that is the key. Improving quality of life, health, happiness. And that, I mean, that's at least what I have found in my personal journey of no self-esteem, no um, points, no desire. That's just what I found is important.
so we're in Orlando, Evan. I moved down here 3.5 years ago from Massachusetts, and
Okay.
and much different state politically, but same thing with the doctors. It was just pay this money and you can go get a card. Um, and now I don't have a card here. I didn't have a card there. I've always been, I got friends
Mhm.
that grow. And so, I don't get to, I also have friends that have cards. So,
Mhm.
I can experience the dispensary level stuff as well
Mm.
as, what I mean, I have a buddy who's fortunate enough to grow for some companies. So
Awesome.
I know what my stuff looks like, where it comes from. And he's like, it's every day, man, every
No,
day. You
it's
don't you don't know what this is like. I'm checking on the girls 5 times a day. Um,
uh
yeah.
some of the, oh yeah, that's
And
good. I'm
those are
glad
the
to hear
people
that.
you want bud tending and taking, cultivating, because they want to put out a quality
Yes.
product. And um, but to speak on, the medical card, to me, I always just felt like I was being taken advantage of. And in certain states, even Massachusetts, it's a little bit better now because with more competition, the prices have come down. When it
For
first
sure.
when it first became medicinal, there was two dispensaries in a state of 7 million people. Um, and one was in Western Mass, 2.5 hours away from the other one. So it wasn't the greatest for a patient.
Mhm.
And the last time I went back there, you could get a $10 pre-roll. That's not too bad. But I remember going back there, and uh, it was like $15-20 in taxes, and I'm like, this is why I still buy it on the street, because at least the stuff I get is same level of what I can go buy for $20 more. And
And you're absolutely right about that too. And that's a huge, huge um, talking point and reason why um, cannabis needs to be descheduled. Um, because although again, speaking to, I've never really truly gone through, again, that illicit, really not knowing what's in my product. Now, I have absolutely um, consumed since illicit products that, I mean, I could tell is contaminated with pyrene resin. I could tell uh, is not what it should be. Um, and again, although I can't say or talk to that, we're absolutely paying for the peace of mind of certificate of analyses, which some people care for, some people don't. Again, we're still at the THC fallacy, so the majority of people, the majority, some bud tenders here in Florida don't even know what a COA is. So, um, most patients don't care. So unfortunately, they are paying that extra money for peace of mind that they're not even really getting peace of mind for.
right.
And they are getting a subpar product that you're absolutely right. I, what you said, I have pretty much heard from every single cannabis consumer without a card who has gone through that same contemplation, knowing that they could get similar quality, better quality, for a cheaper price, non-taxed. And that is a big issue. I actually was in Massachusetts once, or that was the first state I was in when I first um, started consuming cannabis, or my first recreational state, and I was very surprised that an eighth and 2 grand Canagars or King Palms came out to $200, and that was, although Florida, and I could talk for Florida's prices. When I came into the program about 2.5 years ago, if you wanted any flower with smell, yeah, any flower with smell, it was probably going to cost you at least $50 for an eighth. Um, we were also at a point maybe 2 years ago where everyone was jumping over each other for $25 7 grams of ground flower. Uh, Luckily, we are past that now. We have had a lot more competition come through. Um, Everything absolutely started with True Leaf. We had the unfortunate license that was put into a hand that caused a monopoly that unfortunately pushed other dispensaries and other people down. Um, that did lead the way for other dispensaries to follow pricing or ways of pricing, which now, unfortunately, in Florida, we're having a race to the top with deals. We are having 30 to 50% off at every dispensary, like every day, instead of dropping $100 live rosin grams to $80 and saying we'll give you 10% off once in a while. It just stays at that discounted price and makes you they do a good job, or they try to do a good job at um, making you feel like you came out on top, when you pay 20, even when you pay $25 for an eighth that costs them, 20 cents to grow.
Sure.
Um, so it's Florida's medical program has finally gotten to a point, I feel, where you could somewhat reliably get medicine, if you're willing to pay a lot, and that's awful. There are a lot of dispensaries that that their main goal is to, again, push product and show the United States that Florida is a recreational medical program. So
Right.
it's sad, and eventually I hope there's change. That's what we're going for.
That's it. One day at a time, as they say. So, Evan, it's been awesome speaking with you. Let everybody know the best place they can find more of you.
Absolutely. So again, thank you so much. I'm on Instagram at Evans Ensemble Effect, or LinkedIn at EvanB1014. My email is evansensembleeffect@gmail.com. Yeah, feel free to reach out with anything. So again, I really appreciate you having me on, Mike.
Yeah, you're welcome. And for those of you watching this on YouTube, make sure you go down there, smash the like button for Evan, and subscribe to Dro TV
Absolutely.
so that you don't miss more great guests like Evan and interviews like this one. So thank you again, my friend. That's it for today. Thank you for tuning in. And as always, smoke them if you got them. What's up, Dro TV family? You can now stream the audio version of all these episodes on your favorite podcast player. And if you like more episodes like this, check out this playlist we put together over here for you. And if you haven't already, subscribe to us on YouTube. You don't want to miss more great content from Dro TV. Thank you for tuning in, and as always, smoke them if you got them.